We all know the story. Sonic Team head and founder left Sega during the development of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 to form his own company, ProPay, as a means of creating games other than Sonic. While his legacy still remains with Sonic and his future is a little more than ambiguous, Naka-san's personal library included titles that reunited him with Sega, co-developed with Nintendo, and worked with an old co-worker at Square Enix. Let's take a look at the games that Yuji Naka designed and produced post-Sonic Team. Let's tap. For a first outing, this is a simple game, basically a bunch of motion-based games, but the catch is that you lay the Wiimote on a box, preferably the one that it came with, and tap the box to create motions. And color me impressed, this actually works. Tapping light, mid, or heavy performs various responses in the games, such as running where heavy taps make you jump, light and mid taps help pull blocks in the Jenga visible blocks, and all three taps to tap along in a Donkey Konga rhythm game. I can't really express how amazed I am that tapping a box with a Wiimote on top not only works, but is responsive enough to know when I double tap on the menu to select a game. There was also a spiritual successor that was only available on WiiWare called Let's Catch. All you do in the game is play a game of catch with various characters, but it's a more meaningful game where you learn about the character's history and difficulties. How is it a simple game of catch can have such a moving narrative? Ivy the Kiwi? Who would have thought that a little bird could be so fast and, well, stupid? Ivy the Kiwi is somewhat like Kirby's Canvas Curse on DS, except you don't paint paths for Ivy to take, but instead you stretch out vines for her to walk on, lift, and slingshot towards the goal. It's simple in its approach, but it gets harder and harder as the game progresses, forcing you to think 3 steps ahead while avoiding spikes, rats, and water. I actually had a lot of fun with this game, and it's not that deep or complex. Just you, a kiwi, and a bunch of stretchy vines to guide her. We play motion. Yes, ProPay had a hand in developing Nintendo first-party IP, more specifically a minigame. A singular minigame called Target Twist. It's more or less a sequel to the shooting gallery in the first Wii Play, but expanded with UFOs, ninjas, and dinosaurs. But the Wii Motion Plus makes it feel like my aiming is restricted by rubber bands. Because of the pullback, my aiming suffered. I don't mean to boast, but I could hit at least 99% of the targets in Wii Play Shooting Gallery with dual-wielding Wiimotes, so I know where my skill level is. What's funny is that Zest, Naruto Oshima's company, made 3 minigames for Wii Play Motion too. One of the most interesting ones is Spooky Search. Ghosts hide outside of the area displayed on screen and must be found around your physical surroundings using the Wiimote speaker as a guide, and then reeled back into the television to be sucked into the ghost trap. Fishing Resort. I'm not the biggest fan of fishing games. As a side quest it's fine, and if the controls and feedback are solid then I might lose an hour or two getting the big fry. Fishing Resort is just that. Fishing at a resort. You talk, you walk about the island, you catch fish, you talk with other fishermen and quest givers who want specific fish or a specific amount of fish. I'm sorry, but even talking about it is making me yawn. It's an ambitious game where it wants the island and its fauna to be central, but I would have been less bored if the fishing part was all there was. Running about and talking to every NPC about fish is not my idea of a fun game. Maybe there's more to it going on, but I cannot for the life of me bring myself to continue playing this. Rodea the Sky Soldier. This was Naka-san's next big game, a deep story involving androids, a princess, and a 1,000-year gap to figure out what happened between Rodea's fall and reawakening. The gameplay is best described as a successor to Knights, with more freedom to fly and fight. Using only the Wiimote, you move and aim while picking up items and power-ups. The camera is not the best, as it acts like first-person shooters do on the Wii, but after a while I get the hang of aiming and dashing, leading to some awesome traversals across floating islands. This is honestly fun, if a little bit frustrating. If Yuji Naka never left Sega, this would have been another great Sega series alongside Bayonetta and Yakuza. The sad thing though is that Rodea got badly shafted by its publisher, Kadokawa Games. The game was finished back in 2011, but they wanted to make a 3DS version, so they stalled it. Later, the 3DS version was ported to the Wii U, and only then was the Wii original released as a bonus alongside the Wii U version. And that version had the balls to add a fuel gauge when flying and attacking, also a skill tree. So yeah, don't play Rodea on Wii U. Digimon All-Star Rumble. Never would have thought that Yuji Naka would produce a Digimon game, but here we are. Now, I'm not a big fan of Digimon. I kinda called it quits during the 3rd season, so a lot of new Digimon are foreign to me. So what better way to showcase some than a Smash Bros clone? I tell a lie, it's more akin to Power Stone with the simple fact that you can move in more than 2 directions. Besides jumping and basic attacks, you can also use staple Digimon powers like Agumon's Pepper Breath, and like Super Smash Bros. Final Smash, you can Digivolve into Wall Greymon or Metal Garurumon to wreck other mons in the area. I'm using those 2 as an example because they're the only 2 I know. As far as party fighters go, it's mid at best. There's some variety in the battle modes, but after a match or 2, you'll be wanting to play something else. Also, Kirk Thornton uses the same voice for both Gabumon and Albot. Balan Wonderworld. Yuji Naka's final game was one created alongside former colleague Naruto Oshima under the banner of Balan Company for Square Enix. The character design, music, and aesthetics all pointed towards a new take on the Knight style of game design, this time focusing on the musical theatre and the theme of one's heart. What we got was one of the most strikingly bland platformers I have ever played. While visually colourful and varied in its themes based on the people who are troubled, such as a devastated farm or feeling isolated at school, the saturation could be toned down quite a bit. You barely get to play as a titular character. The only times you do are during the QTE sequences, and even that is a stretch to call Balan playable. As far as the rest of the game, you can use abilities granted to you by costumes you collect. You can use 3 at a time, and collecting more replaces the current one and get sent to a bank that you can access at checkpoints. It sounds interesting, but besides movement and switching costumes, the game only uses one button. One single button to use the single ability for the 80 costumes you can find, which I'll remind you can only carry 3 of them at a time. What's worse is that in order to access the rest of the game, you need to collect Balan statues in the previous chapters, one of which is only awarded after you get the highest score in the Balan QTE minigames. This game was released in 2021, a game with all the finesse and design choices that would have been suited for the Sega Saturn. I understand there's fun in simplicity, but when a rushed port of Sonic Colors is better, simple doesn't cut it anymore. Finally, before he sued Square Enix for the failure of Balan Wonderworld and then being arrested for insider trading, he made a free mobile app called Shop 2048. It's a simple math puzzle game. And that's sadly Yuji Naka's post-game library. I missed a few such as Me Past Plaza games, but I never got to play those before the service ended. Rodea is still the best of his time in ProPay, and Let's Tap and Ivy the Kiwi were hidden gems. Too bad it ended with one of the worst games of 2021 and a 2.5-year sentence suspended for 4 years. But thank you for creating one of the greatest gaming icons of all time and a lifetime of childhood memories. But I doubt you'll ever be welcomed back into the gaming industry.